Hi Stampers, it's Elizabeth from StampScrapAndMore.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in Canada. A couple weekends ago it was Club Day, and one of the cards that we made used the stamp set from the mini catalog called Positive Thoughts. And when I saw this stamp set in the mini catalog, I had to have it. It's gorgeous. But then Stampin' Up! Did something awesome, and they came out with a coordinating set of dies. And so the card we're going to make tonight is using these dies and this stamp set. But what makes this even better, these are going to carry over into the annual catalog. So talk about value for your money. It's pretty awesome. But right now, you can get these dies, part of the coordination release that came out on February 4th, and it will be available from February 4th till March 31st or while supplies last. But then it will be coming back into the annual catalog that is going to be released in the summertime. So it's pretty awesome. So let's get started, and we're going to make a card. I'm going to switch you over to my tabletop. I'm going to show you the card we're going to make, and I'm going to actually even share an awesome Stamparatus tip with you that it sold me on the Stamparatus, especially if you mass produce cards at Christmas time. This is awesome. Anyhow, so stick around and follow me, and let's make this card together. Okay, so what card are we going to make? We are going to make this card. Isn't that pretty? Lots of texture on this card, lots of texture and detail, and a pretty awesome Stamparatus tip. So we're going to start off with randomly. So this is, I should tell you, soft seafoam. It's 8.5 by 11 scored in half. And we're going to use the soft seafoam ink. And we're going to use the stamp. I think it's a chrysanthemum. I'm not big on flowers, on my flower names, but we're going to use this stamp. And what we're going to do is we are going to randomly, all over this front of this card, stamp. And it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. You can stamp off, stamp multiple times, and this is giving like lots of texture and detail to this card. And I know you guys are thinking, Elizabeth, you're making a mess, but I promise you I am not. And you're going to look at this, and how simple was that? And it just is beautiful. I don't know if the camera really, if you can appreciate the detail that this gives, and it's so random, and it's just, I love it. Anyhow, so that's just me. Now, we're going to take, this is probably my favorite die in this whole set. It's this die here, and this is, not sure if you're going to see it very well, but it's almost like it gives you paper piercing technique detail along the edge. This was my favorite die in the whole set. Okay, now we're going to emboss this in silver. Well, it's not very straight, is it? I think my overhead camera is not straight. That's the problem. So let's do it this way. And I'm going to take my embossing buddy, and I'm just going to run the embossing buddy over this just to get rid of any static, oils, that type of thing. And we're going to take the Hugs, Prayers, Love, and with the Versamark, we're going to stamp on the top right hand corner, try to get it straight without getting my head in the way. And then I put the silver away. We're going to emboss it in the silver embossing powder. And I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder on here. And if you're like me, you got to put the lid on that right away. And I'm just going to bring out the heat gun, and we're going to do some. And you're going to see it solidify, melt, and it's just going to become this beautiful silver detail on this card front. You can see it coming, starting to melt. And there you go. Hugs, prayers, love. It's really pretty. It's silver embossed. So we're just gonna put that there. Okay, so now I've already die cut this in silver, the silver foil, and it is this one here. You can see I didn't poke out the little pieces. So with this one, I didn't want it to hang over the edge. So I'm cutting off, keeping the pattern, I'm just cutting off the edge like that so that it looks like this, and it's going to fit perfectly left to right there, and it's not going to hang over. But what I'm going to do, you've got a couple of ways to adhere this down. One, you can use your silicone mat, and you can use a sponge dauber, and you can daub some tumble glue. But I'm going to make life a little bit easier, and I'm going to flip this over because it's sticky on this side. I'm going to take my snail, and I'm going to cover that in snail adhesive, and I'm going to flip this back over, and I'm going to adhere this down. And you're going to say, yeah, but it's going to be sticky, but that's okay. I'm going to adhere this down. And you can actually run your finger over and get rid of any of the excess adhesive. But you can also take your embossing buddy and just dab it over, and that's going to get rid of the stickiness as well. Isn't that a neat trick? There we go. And actually it's hanging over just a little bit on this side, and I'm going to cut it. I think it's stretched a bit. There we go. I'm going to cut it off. Okay, so that is it done, and I'm going to put that aside for a minute because now I'm going to bring out the Stamparatus, and I'm going to show you this neat technique with the Stamparatus. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of thick Whisper White cardstock, and what I did was I took this die and this die, and I cut them out from the thick Whisper White. And then I've laid it, I'm going to actually flip it over because I've done this a couple of times now. And I'm going to lay this down on my Stamparatus like that, and I'm going to just use the magnets to hold it down. Then I'm going to take my my stamp, right, and I'm going to flip it upside down. Now I've used the thick Whisper White. The thick Whisper White gives you a little bit more, it's a little bit thicker, so the stamps actually lay in a little bit better. So you have you're going to lay it into the negative space, and you're going to wiggle it around so that you know it's in the spot. And then you're going to flip this over, and you're going to pick it up. Now you can do this with regular cardstock or regular Whisper White or regular cardstock. I just found that the thick, it just nests in there a little bit better. And now I'm going to take my soft seafoam, and I am going to stamp and press it down in the space. So why am I doing that? I'm doing it for two reasons. One is I want to make sure that I had it nested properly. And then the second is if this happens to shift at all, you can bring it back into alignment by following what you have stamped. I hope that makes sense to you. Now I'm going to take the piece that I've already cut out, and this is the benefit of this. If you're mass producing cards, it's a lot easier to just randomly die cut out the shape instead of stamping, die cutting it out and hoping that it doesn't shift when you die cut it. So you can cut a whole bunch out and then use this technique And then you're going to nest it in there like that. And I'm going to ink up the stamp again. And I am going to stamp right on top of there. And look, it's perfect. And now you've got a perfectly stamped fern. Now what we're going to do with the other, I'm going to flip this around. And the one thing I have to do first is I have to clean off, where's my chamois? I have to clean off the chrysanthemum because I used it to randomly stamp the front of the card, and I don't want to get ink all over me. So I'm going to clean that off. I'm going to take it off the block. And this is the hardest part, is finding the way it nests, but the way I've done it, this long one, I know fits right in there. And again, I'm just going to nest it in there. I'm going to pick it up. And now I'm going to stamp because I want to make sure that I've got it lined properly. And it fits right in that spot. Now, for this one, I didn't want white. I wanted to use a piece of the soft sea foam. And so I'm just going to drop that down in there. Again, I've done it so that I know that that long piece there is the one that goes into that spot. And I'm going to ink it up and stamp it, and it's perfect. And now am I missing a piece? I'm going to have to put you on hold 1 second, ladies. Okay, I'm back. What I wanted to do is I forgot to cut it out. So there's this, I'm calling it the center, more for lack of anything else to call it. And so I cut it out in a piece of Whisper White, but I didn't want it stark white. So I'm going to take this one off. Oh, come on. There we go. I'm going to take that one out. And then this one, I'm just going to drop it in the middle. I'm not going to be fancy about it, but I don't want it stark white. I want to have a little bit of texture and color. So I'm just going to ink up the chrysanthemum again, and I'm going to dump it, press it on top. And that way you've got this sort of mottled green color on top of the Whisper White. I didn't want it real Whisper White because it would be too stark. Okay, so I think that's it for the Stamparatus. What do you think? Isn't that a pretty neat technique? I love it. And if you're mass producing Christmas cards, oh, bonus. Okay, so I'm going to actually adhere this to the top, and we're going to pop it up with dimensionals. And I'm going to put dimensionals on all 4 corners, 1 in the middle, so it doesn't sag in transit. And put this down. I think my favorite part of this card is the stamping the texture on the back. I love it. Okay, and now we're going to take this guy that we've stamped already, and we're going to lay him so that he somewhat comes off the page. And I'm going to use my Tombow for this. Oops. My Tombow is clugged. There we go. And I'll lay it off the page a little bit. And then another die that's in this set that is actually beautiful is this one. And it cuts and embosses at the same time. And this is what it looks like. It's hard to see, but that's what it kind of looks like. And I'm going to kind of put him like that, coming in the other direction. There we go. Now I need to, I'm going to take the chrysanthemum, flip them over, and I'm going to take some silver thread, silver metallic thread, and actually this is going to be the end of this roll. I use this a lot. 1, 2, 3, come on, can I get 4 out of there? Well, I'm just going to get 3. Oops. I'm going to get 3, that's okay. And I'm going to take the dimensional. I'm going to plop it down there, So I've actually adhered it, the metallic thread, to the back of the stamp of the piece with a dimensional, and then I'm going to take another dimensional and I'm going to bunch up the other side. Everyone has a different way of doing it. This is the easiest way I found. And I'm going to take one more dimensional and put it in there. Pull the backing off. And it's going to go like that. And then the piece that we cut out before, you've got a couple of things that you can do. You can put it down flat, which is what I've done on a few cards. But if you do that, just be warned that this does cut out like little petals. That's what they're called, little petals. So if you put Tombow glue on it, it's going to come out. Just I wanted to give you a heads up on that. Ask me how I know, right? So in this case, I'm just going to put a dimensional on the back, and I'm going to put it down like that. And there we go. The card is done. Isn't that a pretty card? So my favorite, I told you before, my favorite element on this card is the random stamping around on the card. I just think it looks like designer series paper, and it just has that beautiful sort of textured look. I hope you enjoyed that card, and that inspires you. And I know I love this stamp set. So it's called Positive Thoughts. Positive Thoughts. And then the die set is called Nature's Thoughts. Oops, and that goes with it as well, and that goes with it as well. And there's a cute butterfly. There's a bigger butterfly that coordinates with this guy here. Sorry, there's lights in the way with this one. So it's a great set. I love it. Any questions, give me a shout, and thanks for checking in, and I hope you are inspired.